When I first had the idea for this channel, I knew that one of the things I wanted to do here was make cocktails and drinks based in one way or another around music. There's a lot of channels online that deal with video games or movies or TV shows and make specialty drinks or food dedicated to them, but there's really not much as far as, albums or musicians goes. And the ones that I could find were very rarely, music that is important to me. And while the Smashing Pumpkins would have never been my first choice for what I wanted to do on here, it just felt right given the timing. Not only is October 24th the 25th anniversary of their best album, but in addition to that, we're in peak pumpkin season right now. If you don't know who they are, the Smashing Pumpkins were an alternative band from the 1990s based out of Chicago, fronted by Billy Corgin. You would think that being the frontman to one of the most prolific and innovative alternative bands of the 90s, in addition to owning your very own wrestling league, would make you somebody that I couldn't help but love. And yet somehow Billy Corgin makes it impossible to like him. A lot of people think Smashing Pumpkins were a grunge band. I think just given the fact that, they rose around the time that grunge was really having its boom, and I guess just the fact that Billy Corgin was so intertwined with Courtney Love as well. That's actually a misconception though, because Smashing Pumpkins actually disavowed any punk influence on their music, and instead they have a much larger influence from gothic music and heavy metal. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons that I just instantly fell in love with them and this album in particular. The album Mellon Collie and the Infinite Sadness by the Smashing Pumpkins is one of the most important albums of the 1990s, one of the best alternative albums, and did wonders for just production with guitar. Their music and this album are just filled with these dense landscapes of just thick layers of guitar, just these walls. I think Billy Corgin is a master at doing that, and that I think is one of the biggest legacies of this band. Their catalog is chock full of just a bunch of really solid albums, but I think that in addition to my own opinion, the general consensus is that this one is their best album. Every time I listen to this album, I forget just how goddamn long it is. 28 tracks on the album. There's plenty of iconic ones like Tonight Tonight and Bullet with Butterfly Wings that even if you don't know the Smashing Pumpkins, chances are you've heard it. And in addition to that, there are literally dozens of songs, like completely, produced tracks that just didn't make it onto the album. They actually released a box of those called Aeroplanes Fly High, and it's just crazy how much time and effort went into this album. And I could keep talking about Corgin and the guitar overdubbing and a bunch of other cool trivia about the album, but I think your ears would be much better served just listening to the album than listening to me ramble about it. So I'm gonna hop into the cocktail now, and as you guys will see, I really was having so much fun developing this one and building it, because there's so many different things you can do for a musician, for an album, when it comes to making a drink. There's really no limitations with something like this, and I think that that's what made it so fun but also so challenging. My first idea, maybe a little bit on the nose, was just to do a straight up pumpkin smash, Smashing Pumpkins, ha ha ha, get it? But beyond just the I guess the obviousness of that one, I also wanted to do something that wasn't leaning too much into what I expected of a fall cocktail, namely being the pumpkin spice there. There's a lot of remnants of that drink in this one, but it definitely took a different turn. My other idea that I loved that I just didn't think quite fit, I guess flavor-wise, the mood of the album, was to do a Mellon Collie. So what I have here is an amalgamation. It's part pumpkin spice, part wholly unique. So this is going to be a shaken cocktail, not too many ingredients, some you have to make yourself, but that being said, I think it's one that most anybody can do. So the first thing you're going to want is just a 1/4 ounce of lemon juice. Up next, you're going to want pumpkin juice. This is something you're going to have to make yourself, but it's very simple to do. The easiest way to do it is just to take 1 can of pumpkin puree. Make sure it's pure pumpkin puree. Sometimes they include spices and whatnot. Just 100% pumpkin puree. Add a can of that and a can of water, turn it on just, medium to high heat and let it get to a simmer. When it starts boiling, turn it off heat, let it cool, and then bottle it. It doesn't bring much flavor to a drink, but it definitely has, obviously, the pumpkin kind of pungence, and it's much more of a scent that you're gonna get than flavor. That's why, as you'll see in a second, it's not where we're getting the majority of our pumpkin flavor from. I'm using it instead in this cocktail as more of a lengthener. Up next, this right here is the key ingredient to our cocktail. This is pumpkin orgeat. Orgeat is traditionally a syrup made from almonds and sugar and sometimes some spices as well. It's used a lot in Mai Tais most notably, but it has a wealth of other uses. You can really make it from anything: sunflower seeds, pistachios, walnuts, you name it. I made one from pumpkin seeds for this drink, and I think it turned out delicious. Beyond just using it in this cocktail, I think it's something that, if you make, will be a very fun way to experiment at home. I'll link to a recipe below, but to make this is very simple. It is 1 part of roasted, unsalted pumpkin seeds to 2 parts water and 2 parts sugar. You'll grind up the pumpkin seeds in a blender, slowly add your water, then slowly add your sugar, strain it through a cheesecloth, or if you don't have anything else, a coffee filter, and there you have it. Bottle it and it's good to go. And we're using ½ an ounce of this. So in addition to bringing some pumpkin flavor, this is going to add the sweetness to our cocktail as well from the sugar in it. Up next, 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. Next up, we're going to use something called Allspice Dram. St. Elizabeth is the best brand you can purchase, in my opinion, for this. You can also make it at home if you can't find it at a store near you. This is going to bring a lot of the spice to the cocktail that you sometimes associate with pumpkin, while not bringing in a bunch of the other flavors like clove and cinnamon and whatnot. The hardest part of this drink was deciding on the spirit to use with it. Rum was delicious, rye whiskey was delicious, but really nothing compared in this fall-centered drink with some Laird's Applejack. Applejack is the oldest spirit distilled in America. It is essentially just an apple brandy. There's a few other brands, but Laird's is probably going to be your best bet. So shout out New Jersey people, I guess. This is one of their prides up there, along with Bruce Springsteen and the Turnpike, I think. Now we're just going to shake this drink up. Basically what that does, the 1 large cube is used for displacement and is going to move the liquid around to help aerate it, and the smaller little pieces are going to be used for dilution, which is the other half of shaking the drink. Let me put the cap on, and let's shake it. You're going to do a gated pour for this into a rocks glass, and we're going to pour this over a single rock of ice. I'm going to do a single sage leaf on top right there on the ice. Give it a little smack to express it a bit. It works very well with pumpkin. Lastly, these right here I'm a very big fan of. There's some little golden star kind of sprinkles. They really just flourish. They're in no way necessary for, building this at home, but if you wish to dress it up as I did, I'll put that link in the description. Now that she's all done up, let's give her a little taste. Ooh, I was gonna say some quote from the album here, but I don't know. I was walking the line between unrecognizable and cringy, so I'm just gonna say it's delicious. Almost reminiscent of something with coconut cream or pineapple in it. Like, I get some weird vibe of a pina colada here, but it's in no way like that. It's such a nice sweetness though. The pumpkin orgeat, this stuff is really good. I mean, it's sweet, but it just tastes like pumpkin seeds. It almost brings a pistachio kind of nuttiness there with it. You get some nice sage wafting up as you go to it. And the Allspice Dram is just that perfect little spicy punch. The Laird's is crisp and refreshing, but you're immediately met right after that with that little twinge of allspice in your throat. And the pumpkin juice, in addition to making it a nice orangish color, it helps lengthen it. You definitely get some thickness in the mouthfeel, both from the two pumpkin ingredients, which I like a lot. And the Angostura rounds it out perfectly. Only thing I will say, I think it's the pumpkin juice. You can already kind of see it separates somewhat quickly. You can maybe fix that by boiling yours for a bit longer, but basically just drink this, drink it relatively quickly, which I have no issue with. I hadn't really decided on a name for this one. I'm still not sure how to do these music cocktails, so if you guys have any suggestions, if you'd rather see albums or artists, let me know in the comments. This is something I want to really do a lot more with. I have plenty of ideas for albums that I think are deserving of cocktails, musicians, or even songs I think are deserving of cocktails. But I figured, why not start with one that was not just relevant, but also seasonal. So, I hope you all enjoy. I'm gonna enjoy this tonight, and I hope you all have a good one. Well, don't throw it at me.